All right, John Hickok here. I've got the Winchester model 1897 pump action shotgun. This is one of the first successful pump shotguns ever made. It's an iconic gun, not just from Battlefield 1, which is what I'm here to talk about today. You've seen it in gangster movies. I think it showed up in the movie Public Enemies a bunch of times, probably. Associated with cops taking out gangsters and from the 1920s, you know, and stuff like that, in Prohibition era. Even some westerns that take place in the latter era of the western, you know, around the turn of the century in the early 1900s. You'll see these things pop up in a few kind of western type of films. But just a really iconic gun used for a long time as the standard pump shotgun. And also was used in World War I, as well as a lot of different types of shotguns. So the 1897, it's actually kind of a popular gun in the game, as you probably know. And part of the reason why in the video game Battlefield 1 it's so popular is because, like some of the other shotguns, it's basically like a one-shot kill if you're at any kind of close range, which I complained about the damage that you can do with the A5, the Browning, the semi-automatic shotgun, or the 12 gauge automatic, I think what they call it in the game. Complained about the damage that you can do with that one, but with this gun, it's kind of the complete opposite. It's like one shot and you're done, basically. Which is why a lot of people use it. That and the Remington Model 10. But there's a few things that I kind of wanted to point out that I think that they did a great job with in the game, and it's maybe some things that weren't exactly right, but I'm gonna have to be really nitpicky about that, because for the most part, again, they kind of nailed it. I in general, you've heard me say this before, I feel like they have done a really good job of showing a really high level of realism when it comes to the firearms for a video game, right? I mean, we understand that Battlefield 1 is not produced as a firearms simulator. It's a video game for fun, to appeal to a large audience. So with all that in mind, I think they do a really good job. So let's just go ahead and start off with a couple of very little things I noticed. Oh, first, let me mention that this gun is not actually one that, this actual steel in my hands did not exist at the time that World War I was going on. This particular model, even though the guns like this existed since 1897, this one I think came around like the 20s or 30s, something like that. So it's a little past that era. Could have been used in World War II, probably wasn't. This was originally had a much longer barrel and a cowboy action shooter, which cowboy action shooting is grown men dressing up like cowboys and shooting at steel targets. It's really cool. It looks fun. Never tried it, but a guy who was into that used one of these and cut it off, and so it sort of looks like the trench gun, but you don't have the heat shield or the shoulder thing that goes up, as it's known on the internet, and it doesn't have the bayonet lug, you know, like the military models do. And the actual World War I versions of these are very collectible and rare, and even this one, you know, is pretty expensive. So keep that in mind. It's not identical to the World War I model, but it's basically the same thing, just like I explained with the A5, the semi-automatic shotgun. Okay, so here's the thing that I've noticed, is it looks like in the game, so we notice the hammer here. Of course, this one thing that makes this gun unique is it has an exposed hammer for a shotgun. That's not something that you see on shotguns very often at all. You'll notice that the hammer looks like it's a little bit further up in the game, like it doesn't come back quite all the way for some reason. And this little screw right here looks like it's depicted on the other side of those. Again, very nitpicky, but just trying to spot anything that I can. Most of this stuff looks right, like the placement of the screws and everything. All that looks pretty good. Just the overall shape of it seems like they pretty much nailed it. I mean, they obviously had a real gun to look at, so it seems like they pretty much nailed all of that stuff. Can't complain about the damage, of course. It's basically like a one-shot kill in the game, so I can't complain about that. Recoil wise, seems about right. Let me shoot it again. Of course, appreciate Federal Ammo. They always hook us up. Lots of ammo. BudsGunshop.com, check them out. another thing I noticed too is the capacity. This gun, let's see, let's find out. I'm pretty sure this gun only holds 5. In the game, your capacity is 5, which it doesn't seem to ever, let's see, 3, I'll just count talking to you guys, 4, 5, let's see. No, this one actually holds 6. So the one in the game, again, this is not an exact trench gun, so I'm not going to be too nitpicky on some of those things. This one holds 6, but in the game it holds 5. You get 5 rounds, and it doesn't seem that, not that I've noticed, that it seems to change based on having a round in the chamber. So technically I could have 7. Like, for example, another thing too, see this hammer comes back, you know, something that they also depicted well in the game, but it's also kind of one of the disadvantages of the shotgun. As you can see, depending on how you're holding it, kind of hit your hand, you know. But so I've loaded one there in the tube, so now I can put another round in, keeping it safely pointed down range. Another round in, so now I've got 7. So there ought to be times where you have 6 in the game if you fired a couple and then you reload it, but it seems like it always just comes back to 5. So that could be maybe considered a mistake. Unless it only holds 4 in the magazine and you're just topping it off every time, but that doesn't seem to be the case. All right, let's fire a few rounds. Talk about the recoil some. Shoot that stop sign. And as you can see, you know, even though it's a pump shotgun, you have to do something, you know, every time you need to fire it. It's pretty quick. I mean, it's very quick to operate, as long as you really operate it with authority, you know. You just got to really make sure all the way forward and then all the way back hard, and you can run these things pretty quickly. And that's something that doesn't really disappoint me in the game. I feel like they demonstrate that pretty well in the game. Another thing, first before I do that, don't forget, if you have not joined the NRA yet, go down to the link in the description and use our link to join the NRA. And also, if you want to get some firearms education, go to sdi.edu. So just want to, before I forget, remind you guys to check that out. Another thing that you can see in the game that is also unique about this particular shotgun is that it does what's called Slamfire. And what that is, there's a few others like the Hickok, one of the old Hickoks does it. I forget, there's some others I think. I don't think they make any shotguns anymore that do it for safety reasons. And I don't know, that's something I could see both sides of. If you're inexperienced, maybe it's not great. A great shotgun to hand someone if they don't know how that works. But so this is how it works. Essentially, what you can do is load this thing up. 3, that's 2, 3, 4. I just put 5 in it. Okay. Now, to release the slide, the pump on this gun, you got to push this button right here. And something that took me a while to get used to is you can't just push it and pull it back. You have to first pull up on it, pull forward on it to kind of release it, and then come back. That's something that's a little awkward to get used to. But again, remember, this is like the first ever pump shotgun for the most part. You know, the first one that was very successful. Okay, so I could hold down the trigger right here. If I hold down that trigger and I push this forward, it'll fire. Let me show you. Okay, we got the trigger. Now the trigger doesn't actually move, but I'm gonna keep pressure on it. And I'm gonna push this forward as hard as I can. See, it fires. Now, most shotguns, like 99% of them, don't do that. So that's kind of a unique thing. That's called Slamfire, because you slam that forward and it fires the gun. Can you fire it any faster? I don't know. Let's try it. Okay, I'm going to keep the trigger pulled down. I'm going to shoot at the barrel. Okay, let's try it. Not slam firing. You'll have to trust me on that, I guess, that I'm not slam firing it, and we'll see if I can do it any faster. You know, I don't think there's a huge advantage to it. It's kind of cool just because of the novelty of it, because it's not something that modern shotguns do. but I don't think there's a huge advantage. And there are a few maybe little safety concerns, you know, like maybe your hand slips or something like that, or you just are unaware of it, and you have someone who's very untrained with firearms, and they have their finger on the trigger and they, you know, rack one in or something like that, not realizing it, and you shoot a hole in the, you know, in the ceiling. But it's kind of cool though. Okay, now I'm going to try it without slam firing. Put one in. Okay. Okay. Yeah, it is a little bit faster. And I had a little hiccup there, which can happen when you're trying to work a pump shotgun really fast. It's kind of a brain exercise, the timing of pulling the trigger and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, I would say it is probably faster to do that. Is it necessary? Not really. There aren't a lot of situations where you need to hit something in the same spot with a shotgun several times, just because, especially at close range, because it's a shotgun. It's probably going to annihilate whatever you hit, at least in that general area that you had the barrel pointed at. So I don't know how important it is, but it's kind of a neat little feature of this gun. Okay, so let's try shooting over on the other hill, and let's see what kind of range maybe we get out of this. And of course, I'm just shooting regular bird shot. I'm not sure exactly what kind of shotgun load they would have used in World War I, but these are pretty hot for bird shot. This is not just like regular run-of-the-mill Walmart field loads. This federal target load is loaded up pretty hot, so recoil-wise, it's not going to be a huge difference between some of the high brass stuff. But I would guess in World War I they probably had double-aught buck, you know, something much bigger pellets, but I don't know that for sure. Okay, Dad, if you don't mind, if you'll zoom over there on that big hanging propane tank, and I'm going to we'll see what you guys see over there, basically. See if those pellets seem to have any energy. Okay. I heard them. Okay, a couple of rounds left. But that's another thing in the game, one of the, of course, disadvantages of a shotgun in real life, especially in the video game, which I think that's something they've exaggerated a little bit, is how quickly the energy drops off and the effectiveness of the projectiles, basically. If you shot someone, a real enemy combatant at that kind of range, I think it would bother them a lot more than it seems to in the video game. But again, not a direct correlation, because it's a video game. Like, you could have 1% health left in Battlefield 1 and you can still move around the same as if you had 100. It doesn't exactly work that way in real life. So it's not a great comparison, but I don't know, just interesting to think about. So hopefully that gives you some idea. You guys get some close-ups of it too. Get a good look at the real thing, so next time you're playing the game, you can say you know what this gun's really like to a certain extent. But it's just a neat gun because it says a lot about the era, and anytime you have like the first version of something that becomes an iconic design, like the pump shotgun. The pump shotgun is still a staple of just, you know, defense, you know, where law enforcement or in your home, even hunting, you know, it's just a staple around the world. The pump shotgun, it's simple, they're reliable, and it's kind of neat that this is like one of the first ones, you know, it's like the very first ever smartphone or something like that. It's the things that are not ideal about it are part of what makes it neat, you know, like this bolt coming back, you know, it's so different from modern pump shotguns, and it really sets it apart and makes it very distinctive. But, you know, but there it is, the 1897 Winchester. If you get a chance to shoot one, I definitely recommend it. It's a neat gun, and it's one of the more fun guns to use in Battlefield 1. And that was one of the things that kind of excited me about that game, because I was very familiar with that shotgun, and getting to run around and, you know, and shoot it and stuff. It's kind of neat. So anyways, Hope you guys enjoyed that little look at the 1897 Winchester pump action 12 gauge shotgun, and I will see you guys on the next one.